I don't want to talk about the staff a lot because so often the speaking time is so limited, you just want to get to the heart of it. But since Jim did such a good job of mentioning some of the people here from Team Johnson, I will just say we have the best team. Our chief is fond of reminding us that we're not a family. They sure feel like a family to me. They're just brothers and sisters toiling in the trenches. And there's, you guys, many of you have Hill experience, so you just know you get a special kind of magic when you're working long hours with people who you feel like have alignment on mission, on vision, on values, and they're the greatest blessing for me in this work. So I'm glad some of them could be here tonight. Well, I wanted to be in a bad mood today. I just come from the speaker's suite where we're talking about some of these big weighty issues, and so many of the people at the speaker's executive team, all they want to do is talk about how imposing the odds are, and the odds are seemingly always imposing in the 118th. So I wanted to be in kind of a surly mood, but then I walked into the room and I talked to the bright, sunny, and powerful Jim Conzelman. How can anybody be in a bad mood with you? I would tell you one thing that does keep me in a better mood is being a part of this Republican Main Street group. Like this group, Main Street is made up of people who actually want to talk about the positive, who want to think about solutions, who don't just want to burn things down. I don't know about you, but I am a lot more inspired by happy warriors than I am by the chaos agents that seem to get so much attention in this town. And when I think about what Main Street has really become, it was a good group. But over the last year, I think we've really become a great group. I think we have some of these fires have helped to really bond us together. And if I needed to point to two events of the 118th so far, so just in 2023, where I think you could get a sense of what the Republican Main Street Caucus, those 75 members, what they really bring to bear, I would point first off to the debt ceiling deal, the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The uber far right, I think, has tried to demonize it. But I don't know, gang. When I look at $2 trillion worth of cuts over the course of the next 4 years, when I look at a shot clock for the siting of American energy, a shot clock that's never existed before on EISs and EAs, when I think about the largest changes to welfare reform in a generation, so that we can do an even better job of linking work and education with these assistance programs, I think there's a lot to talk about there. And folks who are members of Main Street were there helping to make sure that those negotiations went well, sometimes in the room, oftentimes trying to bring a disparate group of the conference together to try to make sure that became a success. And then I also look at it, and I think that showed that Main Street folks understand how to work with Democrats and how to sell bipartisan legislation to a Republican conference in an era where bipartisanship is not that sexy. But then I would also look at H.R. 2. That is something that has not become law, but was a huge lift to even just get out of the Republican House. Republicans have never before come together on a comprehensive immigration package because, as you all know better than I do, the politics of border security and immigration are insane. They are just, people go from 0 to 60 emotionally so very quick. But we got that done, and I think, again, that was a lot of Main Street members being willing to talk from one end of the conference to the other. And so not just being able to work with Democrats, but being able to work with the Freedom Caucus too. A lot of people raised eyebrows when they saw that the first stopgap funding measure that was proposed was negotiated by the 3 leaders of the Freedom Caucus and the 3 leaders of the Republican Main Street Caucus. People who are really in the know, they didn't raise their eyebrows because they understood that the Main Street folks are talking to the Freedom Caucus folks more than anybody else on the Hill. We just really treasure having relationships. We try to be pragmatic conservatives who are interested in tactical wins, and that means working with a lot of different people. So as I start to sunset so we can open it up to your questions, I would say, what does that mean for 2024? Is the marketplace still in demand of those sort of that practical conservatism, that strategic willingness to work from one end of the house to the other? I think it is. I think FISA is frankly not going to get done without real leadership from Main Street members and others. I don't think the Farm Bill is going to get done without real leadership from Main Street and others. And we are not people who crave the spotlight. We're not the folks who are going to knock others down on our way to the sticks. We just want to be in the back room with the pen, drafting legislation, and trying to figure out how to get a win this week and next week and the week after that. So with that, what do you guys want to talk about?
Okay. With that, we will open it up for questions. So thank you, Dexter.
Speaking of appropriations, some of the most important decisions for our country to make on national security are Israel aid, Ukraine aid, China aid, border, all this kind of stuff that's tied up in the Senate. Doesn't seem like it has a chance to get past this Republican majority in the House unless you open it wide up on suspension. I mean, what is they're really important issues. So how do we address those?
It's trying so hard to be in a good mood.
That effect on people.
I think these things are all incredibly important. I mean, count me in the we need to continue to help our allies camp. I don't know what Ronald Reagan would make of this relatively newfound, even just in the last 6 months, it's really accelerated, Republican resistance to helping people defend their country against ridiculous breaches of the rules-based international order. I'm aghast at how difficult it has become. And a lot of members, by the way, you know this, they're not even increasingly members, just they don't really want to talk about the policy, they want to talk about the politics. Well, you know, this is what I heard back home day in and day out. God, I mean, I feel like South Dakotans send me here to uphold my oath to the Constitution, not try to vote only for my own political comfort. And so all of helping Taiwan, helping Israel, helping Ukraine, taking care of the border, these things are all in a substantially more difficult position than they were 2 weeks ago. And we just have got to find a way to get them done. I think this is a shame on Congress if we're not able to deliver important wins in each of those areas. And, you know, James Langford, talk about a guy who's, he's done everything he can to try to put together a good deal. And listen, I have no idea if it's a good deal or not. But I would tell you, in this town, we don't have enough people who are willing to try, who are willing to spend their own political capital in the pursuit of a deal that is good for their country. And anytime anybody in this town sticks their head up, all they ever do is get the shit kicked out. And so I hope it's a great deal. I hope everybody rallies around it. I hope it passes 435-0. It's probably not going to be that easy. So I think we're going to get those things done, but I have no idea what it looks like.
A follow-up question to that. Obviously, completely agree with what you said. How much, though, going back to the Reagan comment and thinking about it, how much do you think the border and the long-term kind of dysfunction of the border, and I worked for Bush and I worked on the border, and I got personally screamed at by everyone except for Jim about it. But how much do you think the fact that we haven't controlled the border, we haven't gotten that under control, is influencing that worldview about helping others, right? And the theory being, you know, we're running to their aid, and we're quick to run to their aid, but we can't control our own border, our own neighborhood, and now we're seeing this spill off into our own neighborhoods.
You are 100% right. And who can argue with that? I mean, rhetorically, it's an incredibly powerful statement. Why would we help Ukraine defend their borders if we won't defend our own? And I do think the southern border is a total abject crisis. And I do think the policies of the last few years have been incredibly unfortunate. And I think it's going to be really hard for the 118th to get anything else big done until we resolve that issue.